You're back with The Nation. I will, I won't. It's up to MPs to decide whether they'll support the marriage amendment bill put forward by Labour's Louisa. We proposed to a number of national MPs that they appear on the programme to debate the issue, and one by one we were rejected. And New Zealand First was coming on the programme, and then late last night they pulled out as well. It seems a number of our politicians are a little nervous about which way they should swing on this issue. But we did engage Louisa. She's with us, as is Colin, the leader of the Conservative Party. Welcome to you both.
Morning. Sure.
Louisa, I'll start with you, I think. What's the difference to you between a civil union and marriage?
Fundamentally, it's about choice, and fundamentally it's about New Zealand citizens being able to apply to the state for a marriage licence. So what's driving me is about the equality of all people and the equality of everybody's citizenship in a modern democracy.
Is it a human rights issue to you?
It is. In fact, marriage is a human right, and so what my bill seeks to do is to allow two people, regardless of their sex, sexual orientation or gender identity, to marry within the institution of love that I think marriage is.
OK, Colin, do you believe that it's a human right, marriage?
I believe having a union is, and we recognise that with civil unions. I think marriage has an existing definition, which all New Zealanders are stakeholders in. And I think if we're going to change it, it's got to be something that has the support of New Zealanders through a referendum.
Can I say that, in fact, our Marriage Act doesn't have a definition, which is why my bill is about defining it between two people, essentially, who love each other. And so the churches have a different definition. The church's definition is very different to the state's definition.
I think we understand the definition is one that's come through legal precedent, and that's because in assessing what marriage meant, the court looked at what marriage traditionally has been and the concept of what we said as a society.
Many would argue, though, Mr Craig, that laws are made to be broken, aren't they?
Well, I like to think we make good laws that we don't need to break, and we are talking about a law here which really does two things. Number one, it redefines or defines, if you like, clarifies what marriage is, and the run-on effect of that is it will impact on the Adoption Act and allow gay couples to adopt children through the Adoption Act.
Is that the key issue for you here? Is this one of the reasons why you feel strongly about this, so that gay couples can adopt?
No, my primary motivator is equality under the law for all New Zealanders. Marriage is the primary focus of this bill, but a consequence of being married is that you become a spouse. And in our Adoption Act, Section 3, by virtue of that definition, married same-sex couples will be able to jointly adopt. And it's a bit of an anomaly because individuals can marry. So if you're in a same-sex relationship as an individual, you can marry. In fact, I would have thought that it's better through the institution of marriage that same-sex couples have the same rights as other New Zealanders.
But haven't you achieved equal rights, though, with civil unions? And as Bill English lesson eloquently put it, this is a problem that's been solved, surely. Have you not achieved equal rights under that?
No, because we created another entity. We had an existing entity. In fact, if we go back to where this debate began, in the mid-80s, 3 lesbian couples went to the local registrar and asked for a marriage licence. What happened from that, we had a Court of Appeal process, and Colin's right, they threw it back to Parliament and said, under the existing law, same-sex couples can't marry. But what we should remember about civil unions is it doesn't discriminate. So we actually have, on average, about 400 civil unions a year, 20% for heterosexual couples. So all New Zealanders have the right to the institution of civil union.
Sure, and I think the logic of civil unions was that it said marriage is already something that is, and that's got traditional value, it's got associated with it man, woman, children for thousands of years. So when it came to the question of how we're going to recognise gay couples and how we're going to make sure their rights are looked after, no, we didn't take marriage and redefine it. We said, let's create something that does deliver that. And we changed 160 pieces of legislation to make sure that we created that level playing field.
It's not level, Colin, and that's the problem. And there was actually a dissenting view by Justice Thomas in that decision. And he actually said, we have a Bill of Rights, we have a Human Rights Act. This contravenes it. And
there will be dissenting views. But what I'm saying is we took the approach that said marriage is already something. It is already defined, it already has a standing, but we do need to attend to the issue of rights and equalities and making law changes, and we did that. And I think civil unions was a very good compromise. Not everyone agreed with it, of course, but I think it was a good compromise because it said we need to do something to recognise and bring the rights in, but at the same time, if we're going to redefine something that exists and so many people already have a stake in, suddenly it's about your rights moving on top of somebody else's.
Hasn't the institution that is marriage changed, though, in that many New Zealanders now don't marry in churches, they don't have vows written in, religious elements written into their vows, they get married in gardens and, you know, ballrooms in various places, so it's not the big religious union, if you like, that it perhaps once was.
Absolutely, and the way people do marriage in a church or a garden or wherever else, yes, that has changed. What I'm aware of and what I believe is in fact that the man-woman component of that hasn't changed. I think the majority of New Zealanders still want marriage to be man and woman, but the majority of New Zealanders think that civil unions has done the job. Now, I know it's a tough debate and I know that it's split along generational lines.
But actually the statistics don't support what you've just said. I mean, in 2004 when civil unions came to be, 40% of New Zealanders agreed with marriage equality, 54 against. So at its time, I think civil unions did serve a purpose. We've moved on very quickly in a matter of 8 years, and now 63% of New Zealanders agree with marriage equality, but the under 34-year-olds, the 18 to 34-year-old cohort, nearly 80% of that generation agree with marriage equality, because it is about the dignity of every human being, Colin, and the right for every New Zealand citizen to be able to marry the person they love.
Preserving the traditional meaning and standing of marriage is not taking away dignity from anybody.
Churches will retain that right, Colin, to define for themselves what marriage is. And I'm not going to limit their ability within the context of a particular church, a congregation, and in fact a religious institution. If they define marriage between a man and a woman, this bill will not compel them or make it mandatory for them to marry same-sex couples.
I'm not making any religious argument. What I'm simply saying here is that there is a standing definition, and that's what New Zealanders are invested in. And I think if we're going to change it, it could change. And I have called,
and it's changing internationally.
Called and still do, saying that this is an issue that should in fact go to New Zealanders as a referenda.